Somerville has a new sound, the Elskavon Toolkit. When you first open the Elskavon Toolkit, you got bass sounds, keys, pads, plucks, and vocals. Submelt. Keys. Let's check out Coast to Coast. For the pads, let's get Astronomy Fog. Plucks, Piano Sin Stab. Yes. And then vocals. These are all sounds that started with my friend Chris's voice. I'll tell you more about Chris in a second. But obviously they've been tweaked a bit. You can hear a voice in there. I'll walk through the controls here in a second, but first let me tell you more about Elskavon, or as I know Elskavon, Chris Bartels. One of the main reasons I wanted to start Somerville Sounds in the first place is I wanted to collaborate with other artists. I was fine making sounds under my own name, but I wanted to make something bigger, something that more people could be a part of. And from the beginning, I knew that Chris Bartels is someone that I wanted to work with. Chris lives in Minnesota. Maybe another reason why I wanted to create Somerville Sounds is so I could visit my friends. I took my camera, got on a plane, flew to Minnesota. Quite disappointed that it was like 40 or 50 degrees in February. I didn't get the true Minnesota experience, but I think I'm probably better off for that. I'm drawn to the artists, the composers, the musicians out there who figure out a way to make a life in music. That's what I've been trying to do here, and through the process of me trying to figure out a way to make a living in music, I've met people like Chris. I've got a few videos planned once I can finish this one where I tell you more about Chris. We made a song from the sounds of a bridge.
Yeah, there you go. Voice memo. I'll be
quiet. High quality recording.
But what you need to know now is that Chris writes under a handful of different monikers, one of those being Elskavon. Last year he made an album called Origins, and then a subsequent remix which features some really cool artists. I'll put their names somewhere around here. So I reached out to Chris about creating an instrument that featured some of those sounds, along with some new sounds. But so many of the sounds were created from organic elements. I spent the past 4 hours trying to figure out a tagline, and I think I've settled on organically infused synthetic soundscape machine. I love synths. I have synths. Am I a synth guy? No. I'm guilty of making the same sounds all of the time, but I love the sounds that Chris comes up with. And our idea behind the instrument is that he can kind of take you to a place. I once heard it called emotional scaffolding. These sounds, they take you somewhere, but we wanted to give you enough control that you can manipulate those sounds to fit your tracks. The team and I at Somerville Sounds debated for quite a while on what controls to include and what to leave out, and this is what we settled on. By the way, before I forget, over on the Somerville Sounds YouTube page, which you need to subscribe to, along with this one, Chris made a walkthrough of his 5 favorite patches from the toolkit. 1 from each folder: bass, keys, pads, plucks, and vocals. So be sure and go check that out. You'll also find Hunter walking through the multis, which might be the most inspiring part of the instrument. I often sleep on the multis. Don't do that with the Elskavon Toolkit. I'm gonna load in, let's see, North Starlight. I love that patch, I love it, I love it. What you notice first is a giant knob right here. Here it is all the way down. If I raise it up, I'm gonna start by right-clicking and assigning it to this knob. These are individual samples. The idea is that when this is all the way down, it would be a drier, more basic version of the sound, if that's the way to say it. But as I bring it up, these are samples that were also processed by Chris and myself and Hunter. I love being able to take one sound and then throughout a track be able to manipulate that sound without having to always go to another sound. You can just take one version of it and add the aggression to it. Now, some of these get wider, some of these get more spacious, some get more distorted, some all of the above. Notice below you have ADSR. You can turn it into a pad sound pretty quickly. Over on the effects section, the filter is automatically assigned to the mod wheel. I love having a filter on the mod wheel. That's what I use the most. Then we have some internal effects that are slightly different for each patch. Burn is always going to be a distorted type sound. And then we have warp. This sound already has that modulation. If you need more, warp it. And then smear, smear. It's got some delay and it smears the sound. Then notice here we have delay and reverb that we can turn on and off with a click. Let me turn the reverb off, and here's the delay. And the delay also has controls. If you click this cob, you can do the rate. Adjust the feedback. And the filter. I mentioned earlier that we spent a lot of time deciding what controls you needed and what you don't. I like having a little bit of delay and a little bit of reverb, and these are different under the hood for each NKI. We went through and kind of selected the type of reverb, but you still have the basic controls. Now, you can always add your own reverbs and delays afterwards, but I think having a little something there is great, especially when we get over to the arpeggiator in just a second. And the reverb. Size, decay, and dampening. That is cool. Let's go to a plucked sound. What's this sound like? Sometimes the difference between the dry and the wet is substantial. Other times it's just a little more compressed, a little more in your face. Oh, by the way, you can turn all of the effects on and off by clicking on this power button, or you can click on each individual effect. If you just want to do some auditioning, sometimes that comes in handy. Let's turn on the arpeggiator. I have it set to up. You can put it on up and down. Down, up. Random. And chord. I'm hearing the attack, not really hearing the chord. It's because the length is short. Think of length as like a release. I like chord because it plays the whole chord instead of working its way up through the notes. You can adjust the rate here. Let's do dotted eighths there on the delay. I like that. If you further want to manipulate the sequence, click on this cog up here. You can manipulate this to your heart's content. Nothing, 1, 2, and then all the way up. Again, like the delays and reverbs, some of you are going to want to use sequencers outside of the instrument, but wanted you to have it in case you want to use this out of the box. For those of you who are into control, learn something new you can learn in non-Kontakt Sounds. Somerville Sounds is here. You can check out our Meyer Choir. If you're wondering what this is, we have a collection of free sounds, 2 at the moment. We've got a third one. I might have just given you a hint on what it's going to be if you go back and watch this video a few seconds ago. These are our free prototypes or pay what you want prototypes. They're available on the website. They work in their own plugin. They don't require Kontakt. If I load in Elskavon, and if I go to browser, the main knob is assigned to this first knob here. Then you have delay sends, reverb, and then we have the filter control, which is redundant to the mod wheel, burn, warp, and smear. You can go to page 2 and control attack, and release, These sounds can fill in a gap for your track, but I think they're also great at inspiring you to think differently and to start you on a path that maybe you weren't expecting to go. But they're part of a family of sounds. They're very cohesive, they go together, but it's a diverse family as well. Some of it's a little weird. That's weird, but cool. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. If you're still not sold, go over to the Somerville Sounds YouTube page and watch Chris's 5 favorite patches video. Talk soon.